The night the Iron Brotherhood changed forever began with a door creaking open and a child stepping into a world she was never meant to enter. The clubhouse, thick with cigarette smoke, engine grease, and the heavy silence of men who had seen too much, froze as the little girl walked in clutching a wrinkled $5 bill. Emma Rodriguez was 9 years old, hair tangled, eyes wide, clothes too thin for the cold wind outside. But she stood there with the quiet, desperate courage of someone who had already lived through things no child should face. 15 outlaw bikers stared at her. Notorious men. Ex-military, ex-cons, men whose fists had settled more problems than diplomacy ever had. Yet none of them could move, because Emma spoke before they could react. "Will you save my mother's life for $5? The bill shook in her trembling hand. The room went still. Every conversation died. Hammer, the chapter president, 6 feet 5 inches, scarred, tattooed, hardened by war, walked toward her. Even he looked shaken, though his face hid it well. Emma explained between breaths, stage 4 cancer, a treatment they couldn't afford, an uncle who would only pay if she lived with him forever. "A bad man," she whispered. A bruise peeked from beneath her sleeve. The bikers saw everything. By the time she finished, the Iron Brotherhood understood this was no ordinary plea. It was a cry for help wrapped in fear and innocence. A plea that demanded justice, not charity. Hammer knelt and took the $5, not as payment, but as a vow. "We'll help you," he said. "But first we deal with your uncle." That night, the Iron Brotherhood became something they had never expected, protectors, and a single $5 bill would become the legend that defined them. The Iron Brotherhood clubhouse pulsed with its usual noise, pool balls cracking, engines rumbling outside, old rock playing from dusty speakers, until Emma stepped inside. One moment the bikers were laughing, drinking, arguing over a poker hand, the next, the room felt colder. Hammer watched her from across the table. Something in her posture, rigid, bracing, terrified, told him this wasn't a kid who wandered in by mistake. That he stood. The others followed his lead automatically, their instincts honed by battles and prison yards. They formed a loose circle as Emma explained her mother's illness, the $50,000 treatment, the uncle waiting outside. Her voice wavered but didn't break. She held that $5 like it was her only weapon. Hammer crouched to her height. Behind him, the Brotherhood exchanged looks, dark, knowing, dangerous looks. They understood predators. They had fought them. They had been them. They had survived them. When Emma mentioned the bruise on her arm, Tank's jaw clenched. Wrench swore under his breath. Raven moved closer to place a protective hand on the girl's shoulders. Then Hammer delivered the words that shifted the entire night, "Show me where he is." The brothers moved with silent purpose. They followed Hammer outside into the chilly night. The black Mercedes idling arrogantly in the lot came into view. Robert Chen. Polished. Expensive. Smiling the smile predators used when they believed they held all the power, Hammer stepped forward. "You brought a child here at midnight." Robert smirked. "She needed to learn how the world works." The bikers closed in around him, slow, deliberate, united. The predator realized he had walked into a den of wolves. The moment Robert's mask slipped, the Iron Brotherhood knew exactly what they were dealing with, and they were far from finished. Robert Chen's confidence cracked the moment Doc walked out of the clubhouse holding his phone. The bikers encircled Robert like a steel ring. Hammer's voice stayed steady, but every word carried weight. "Your niece told us some things." Robert scoffed. "She's imaginative." Tank stepped closer, arms crossed. "She's scared." Robert tried to reclaim control. "I could call the police." "Say you're holding her hostage." Hammer lifted his chin. "Call." Robert hesitated, but Doc didn't. He spoke first. "I called St. Mary's. Rosa Rodriguez is dying." The doctor says she refused custody papers because she's terrified of you. Robert's face tightened. She's confused. Doc kept talking. We know about Oregon. The investigation. The settlement. The name change. Silence. Robert looked around at the semicircle of bikers. These were not men easily intimidated. They had fought wars. Survived prison riots. Burying monsters like Robert was practically a community service. Hammer showed him the phone screen, records, names, details, enough to bury Robert legally or otherwise. You will leave Emma and her mother alone, Hammer said. Permanently. Robert stuttered, voice trembling. This is extortion. No, Wrench said quietly. This is protection. The threat wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. It hung in the air like a blade. Finally, Robert broke. He climbed into his Mercedes, hands shaking so badly he dropped the keys twice. The engine revved. The car sped away into the darkness. Tank watched the taillights fade. He'll come back. Hammer shook his head. No, he won't. Doc lifted his phone. I recorded everything. Hammer's voice was final. Good. Now we save Emma's mother. The Iron Brotherhood turned back toward the clubhouse, not as criminals, not as outlaws, but as an army assembling for battle. Inside the clubhouse, Emma sat at the bar beside Raven, finishing the last cherry from her Shirley Temple. She looked up with wide, anxious eyes when the bikers returned. Is he gone? She whispered. He's gone, Hammer said. And he's not coming back. Her shoulders sagged in visible relief, and then panic replaced it. But my mom. The medicine. I only have $5. She held out the crumpled bill, hands shaking. Hammer didn't take it. He knelt again so Emma saw only him, not the scars, not the danger, just the certainty in his eyes. You asked what we do, Hammer said. We protect people who can't protect themselves. Your $5 is worth more than any job we've ever taken. Raven squeezed Emma's hand. We'll save your mom. The room shifted instantly from a bar to a war room. Phones rang. Brothers barked orders. The air swelled with purpose. Tank called other chapters. We're raising money. Right now. Doc contacted veterans networks, medical charities, private donors. We need emergency funds. Wrench opened his laptop. I'm launching a crowdfunding page. Iron Brotherhood saves dying mother. The screen lit up. Donations trickled in. Then poured. Then surged. Bikers from across the state pledged support. Veterans donated. Strangers shared the post. People who had once feared the Iron Brotherhood now saw them as saviors. By 3 a.m., they had $30,000. By dawn, they hit $50,000. By noon, $75,000. Emma watched it all in disbelief. You're really doing this? Hammer looked at her. You walked in here alone, scared, and still asked for help. That kind of courage deserves an army behind it. The Iron Brotherhood had become that army, all because a little girl carried $5 in hope. Hammer, Raven, and Doc drove Emma to St. Mary's Hospital. The automatic doors slid open, bathing them in fluorescent light. The sterile smell hit immediately: antiseptic, metal, sickness. Emma's hand clutched Raven's tightly as they walked through the quiet hallways. Dr. Martinez waited outside room 304. He looked at the leather vests, the tattoos, the patches, and hesitated. You're the bikers? Hammer nodded. We're paying for the treatment. Dr. Martinez blinked. You raised $50,000 overnight? 75, Wrench texted from the clubhouse. It's still climbing. Doc showed the doctor the proof. Dr. Martinez exhaled slowly, stunned but relieved. "We can start today," he said. "I must warn you, even with the treatment, her chances are 40%. 40 is better than 0, Raven replied. Emma slipped into the room. Rosa Rodriguez lay in the bed, frail, pale, drifting between consciousness and sleep. Machines beeped. Tubes connected to her arms. The sight hit Emma like a punch. "Mama," Rosa's eyelids fluttered. She saw her daughter. Then she saw the bikers in the doorway. "Bikers," she whispered weakly. "They're helping us," Emma said. "They sent Uncle Robert away. They got the money. You're going to be okay." Tears rolled from Rosa's eyes. She looked at Hammer, this massive, intimidating man with a face cut from war. "Why?" she asked. Hammer's answer was simple. "Because Emma asked." The next 2 hours were a blur of paperwork, signatures, bank transfers, explanations. Through it all, Emma never let go of her mother's hand. The treatment started that afternoon. Rosa fought, Emma prayed, and the Iron Brotherhood stood watch like silent guardians in leather and steel. Emma couldn't stay at the hospital overnight, and Child Services needed a temporary guardian. The situation became complicated fast. Social workers asked questions. Legal documents surfaced. Robert Chen's name loomed like a dark cloud. That's when Raven stepped forward. "I'll take her," she said. "I'm a certified foster parent." The entire room paused. Emma blinked. "You want me to live with you?" Raven nodded. "If you're comfortable. I've got a spare room. And I make good pancakes." It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't emotional. It was safe. Emma nodded slowly. "Okay." The first week in Raven's home was difficult. Emma woke up crying some nights. Sometimes she refused to speak. Sometimes she asked if her mother had died yet. Hammer assigned 2 bikers to guard Raven's home around the clock. Engines rumbled outside at all hours, a comfort rather than a warning, but Robert never came. Hammer's contacts in Oregon stirred trouble for him. His lawyer eventually sent a message. Robert had moved to Nevada and would not return. With that threat gone, Emma began to breathe again. Raven taught her how to garden. How to ride on the back of a motorcycle. How to cook breakfast. How to sleep without fear. Doc came by every night with updates from the hospital. "Your mom's scans look a little better," he'd say. "By week 2, the tumor markers were decreasing. By week 3, Emma smiled again, small at first, then real. By week 4, Rosa could sit up. Her color returned. Her voice strengthened. The experimental treatment was working. The Iron Brotherhood didn't just save her mother, they were rebuilding Emma's life, piece by piece, mile by mile, day by day. 2 months after the night Emma walked into the clubhouse, Rosa Rodriguez walked out of St. Mary's with a clean bill of health. Cancer-free. A miracle, according to Dr. Martinez. A victory, according to the Iron Brotherhood. The clubhouse transformed for the celebration. Long tables, sizzling grills, engines revving, a festival of leather, laughter, and relief. Rosa arrived with Emma at her side. Every biker stood, not out of intimidation, out of respect. Rosa stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "You saved my life. You saved my daughter. And you did it for $5 you never took. I don't know how to repay you." Hammer shook his head. "You don't repay us. You live your life. You raise your daughter. You show her there are still good people in the world." Tank stepped forward, voice rough. "My daughter was Emma's age when someone hurt her. I couldn't protect her then. So now I protect others." Wrench added, "My mother died of cancer when I was 10. We couldn't afford treatment. No kid should feel that helpless." One by one, the bikers revealed their pasts: abuse, poverty, violence, childhoods marked by suffering. every man in the room had once been a powerless child, every man had sworn not to let another suffer if he could stop it, Rosa cried openly. Emma held her mother's hand and listened to truths spoken without shame, then Emma reached into her pocket. She handed Hammer the $5 bill she'd once tried to use to buy hope. Hammer looked at it with reverence. "We'll frame it," he said. "And whoever comes here will hear your story." That night, the Iron Brotherhood didn't just celebrate a recovery, they cemented a legacy. The framed $5 bill hung above the bar within a week. Visitors pointed to it, asked about it, stared at it with confusion, until a member told them the story of the brave girl who changed everything. The bill became law. Tradition. Code. Anyone seeking help would never need more than courage. One evening, 3 months later, the clubhouse door opened again, this time revealing a young woman with a black eye and a small boy clinging to her leg. "I heard you help people," she whispered. "I heard about Emma. I need help." Hammer didn't hesitate. "Raven, get her and the kid checked out. Tank, find a safe house." She panicked. "I don't have money. I can't pay anything." Hammer gestured to the frame on the wall. "That's the price." Word spread through the county like wildfire. The Iron Brotherhood wasn't just a motorcycle club, they were protectors, guardians of the broken, shields for the powerless. Over the next year, they sheltered 12 families. Women fleeing abuse. Children in danger. Veterans lost in the system. Immigrants hiding from exploitation. The Brotherhood's reputation shifted. People no longer crossed the street out of fear, they approached with hope. Emma returned often, visiting with Raven, bringing baked cookies for the brothers, hugging Hammer each time with the same gratitude in her eyes. Rosa started attending support groups held at the clubhouse. The bikers brewed coffee, guarded the door, and offered quiet companionship. Members who joined the club after that learned Emma's story during initiation. Standing beneath the framed $5 bill, they were told, "This is why we protect. This is our code." The Iron Brotherhood had found its purpose, not in power, but in redemption. Years passed, and Emma grew from a frightened child into a confident young woman. She excelled in school, fueled by the stability Raven provided and the silent army of bikers who showed up to every parent-teacher meeting. When Emma applied for college, Hammer wrote a recommendation letter, formal, stern, surprisingly articulate. Tank drove her to campus visits. Wrench helped her fill out financial aid forms. She earned a scholarship. On move-in day, 15 motorcycles lined the parking lot. Emma laughed. "You guys don't have to come to everything." Hammer replied simply, "We protect our own." At college, Emma studied social work. Her passion was clear, she wanted to help children like herself, those who felt trapped, unseen, unheard. Meanwhile, Rosa became a beacon in the cancer survivor community. She spoke at hospitals, volunteered, mentored families. Every Thursday, support group members gathered at the Iron Brotherhood clubhouse. The bikers served coffee, kept the doors open, and provided silent reassurance. Raven continued fostering kids and mentoring struggling women. The Brotherhood funded her shelter, expanding it room by room. Emma returned home every holiday. Every visit began with a hug for Hammer and ended with a glance at the framed $5 bill. "That's the luckiest $5 in the world," she would say. Hammer always answered, "No. Just the bravest." Meanwhile, Detective Sarah Morrison, Tank's sister, kept tabs on Robert Chen. Evidence surfaced linking him to crimes in multiple states. Eventually, he vanished entirely. No one searched for him. Life wasn't perfect. But Emma had grown roots, strong ones. She had found a world where protectors wore leather, where family was built, not inherited. The Brotherhood had become part of her DNA, and she of theirs. Emma's college graduation marked a new chapter, for her and the Iron Brotherhood. The auditorium buzzed with families, applause, cameras. But the loudest sound came from the back row, where 15 bikers in leather vests stood shoulder to shoulder, when Emma's name was called, the Brotherhood erupted. Their roar drowned out every other cheer. People turned, startled, then smiled as they realized, this wasn't noise. It was love, Rosa cried. Raven wiped her eyes. Doc clapped until his palms ached. Tank whistled loudly. Hammer stood silently, proud in a way only a man who found redemption could feel. After the ceremony, Emma walked into the parking lot, the sun casting long shadows over rows of motorcycles. She hugged Hammer first. Thank you. For everything. For saving my mom. For giving me a family. Hammer shook his head. You reminded us what we stand for. Emma smiled. Keep the $5 on the wall. Always. Hammer gave a rare, faint smile. Always. The celebration became a reunion. The bikers told embarrassing stories about Emma's childhood. Emma teased them for being overprotective. Raven embraced her like a daughter returning home. As the sun set, the Brotherhood rode together, Emma on the back of Raven's bike, engines roaring in honor of the girl who turned a club of hardened men into something greater. From that day on, Emma worked at a child advocacy center. She was relentless, brave, compassionate. She fought for every kid the way 15 bikers once fought for her. Her legend spread with the Brotherhood's reputation, intertwining their identities forever. Emma Rodriguez wasn't just a survivor, she was a symbol, and the Brotherhood wasn't just a motorcycle club, they were guardians forged by a child's courage. The story didn't fade. It became myth. The framed $5 bill still hangs in the Iron Brotherhood clubhouse, faded, wrinkled, nearly colorless. But its power has only grown. Every new member stands beneath it during initiation. Every visitor hears the story. The bill represents the moment the Brotherhood changed paths. A moment when strength served compassion, not destruction. The bikers continued to help families, quietly, discreetly, fiercely. Their reputation evolved into something unique, feared by predators, trusted by victims, respected by the community. Emma visited often. Sometimes alone, sometimes with Rosa, sometimes bringing colleagues who needed help for struggling kids. One quiet night, Hammer stood beneath the framed bill, tracing the edges with his eyes. Tank joined him. Crazy how a piece of paper changed everything, Tank said. Hammer shook his head. Not the paper. The girl. Raven approached, wiping grease from her hands. Emma's coming by tomorrow. Wants to talk about expanding the shelter. Hammer grunted approvingly. She's building what we started. Correction, Raven said. She's continuing what she inspired. Outside, engines rumbled as brothers rolled in from a ride. Their vests caught the dim light, skulls, wings, patches. Symbols once feared, now respected. Years had passed, but the memory was sharp. A terrified 9-year-old pushing open a heavy door, clutching $5, begging strangers to save her mother. Hammer glanced at the bill. That $5 is worth more than 50,000. Tank nodded. Worth more than anything. Because it represented courage. Hope. Salvation. A reminder that the world's toughest men often carried the softest hearts. A truth the world rarely admitted, but Emma Rodriguez lived it, and the Iron Brotherhood proved it, every single day.